Hello guys, I hope you're fine and welcome to module 10, which will entail web development with Python. And in this module, we're going to look at two major Python web frameworks, Flask framework and Django framework. However, we'll have a working project on Flask frameworks, and the Django framework will come sometime later. So dealing with the Flask framework, we'll have to look at setting up Flask framework step by step, creating REST APIs. So APIs simply means application programming interfaces, uh, and they will include also handling requests and responses, database integration with Flask, SQL Alchemy, and the video after Flask framework will have a video on Django framework, which will entail Django project structure, models, views, templates or MVT, pattern, authentication and user management, Django REST framework or DRF APIs. And now let us proceed to VS Code and see how this works. And in this module, we will explore two of the most popular web development frameworks in Python, that is Flask and Django. And both frameworks are widely used in the industry, but they differ significantly in terms of complexity, scalability, and use cases. Remember, a framework in software development or engineering is a pre-written collection of tools, libraries, and best practices that provides a structured foundation for building applications, and it helps developers avoid writing common repetitive code from just scratch and ensures consistency, efficiency, and maintainability in software projects. And in simple terms, a framework gives you the skeleton or a blueprint of an application, so you can focus more on building features rather than the underlying infrastructure. And these are the key features of a framework. One, that they have predefined project structure, and they have built-in functions and classes to handle common tasks. For example, routing, templating, databases, access, among others. They also promote code reuse and modularity. They also encourage developers to follow certain design patterns, such as MVC, which simply means model view controller. And in Python web development, Flask is a micro framework for lightweight application or simply Flask is a lightweight framework that gives you more control and flexibility when building applications. So Flask again is a micro web framework, meaning it provides the essentials. It provides essential tools needed to build a web application, but leaves many decisions up to the developers' hand. So It is known for its simplicity, flexibility, and minimalistic design. Flask still is ideal for 1. Prototyping and building small to medium-sized applications. So it's also ideal for developers who want full control over the application architecture, and it's also ideal for learning the fundamentals of HTTP or Hypertext Transfer Protocol routing, request handling, and templating. And some of the key features of Flask include minimal boilerplate code, explicit routing and configuration, and Jinja 2 templating, pinching, and easy integration with extensions such as SQL Alchemy, that is for database management or access, Flask login authentication, and other features include it's ideal for RESTful APIs and microservices. So we need to understand what's a microservice when we say this in this context. So a microservice is simply a small, independent, and self-contained unit of functionality in a large software system. And microservices are designed to perform one specific task or business function and communicate with other microservices over a network, typically using lightweight protocols like HTTP or messaging queues. So we have key characteristics of microservices include single responsibility. So each microservice focuses on a specific business logic or capability. For example, e.g. user authentication, payment processing, among others. And they are also independent. They have independent deployment. So microservices can be developed, deployed, and scaled independently. They also have decentralized data management. So each microservice often has its own database or data storage which it manages independently. It also has communication. It also communicates via APIs. So microservices talk to each other using RESTful APIs, gRPC or messaging systems like Kafka or RabbitMQ. And it also has technology agnostic. So different microservices can be built using different programming languages or frameworks, as long as they adhere to the agreed communication protocols. And examples include in an e-commerce application, the system might be broken into these microservices. For example, user service. This one will manage user profiles and authentication, and also have product service, and this one will manage product listings and inventory management. And we also have order service, in which it entails to handle order processing and history management. We also have a payment service, which can manage transactions and billing. And remember, each service can be updated, scaled, or redeployed independently without affecting the entire system. And these are the benefits, that it has greater scalability and resilience. It is easier to maintain, and it is faster in terms of deployments. It has technology flexibility and reusability. So, however, we have some challenges of microservices. They include increased system complexity, difficulties in managing data consistently, and we have also need for robust monitoring, logging, and service coordination. And now next, we're heading to Django. Now, what's Django? Django is a full stack framework that includes everything needed to build large scale web applications. So Django is a high level Python web framework that encourages rapid development and clean, pragmatic design. So it follows the model view template, or MVT architecture, architectural pattern, or in short, and comes with a wide array of built-in tools and libraries. Django, in addition, is suited for number one, large scale and complex web applications, and number two is that in projects that require built-in features like admin interfaces, ORM, or just simply ORM authentication and security. And it is also suitable for developers who prefer convention over configuration. And some key features of Django include built-in administration panel for managing data models. It also has powerful object relational mapper, or ORM, for database integrations. It also has robust user authentication and authorization system. It has also form handling, cross-site reference protection, and URL routing out of the box. It is scalable and secure with support for middlewares and third-party applications. And we can have comparison between Flask and Django framework. So we're going to look at the feature of a framework, and we start with Flask, and then we're heading to Django. So if we look at the type of the framework, is that Flask is a micro framework, and on the other side, or on the other hand, remember, Django is a full stack framework. And if we look on flexibility, remember that Flask is highly flexible with minimal constraints, whereas Django is more rigid. It follows MVT convention. And if you can compare with learning curve, is that Flask has lower or good, it's good for beginners, whereas Django has a steeper learning curve due to more built-in features. And project-wise, so on Flask is that it's actually manual, so you have to choose components on your own, whereas in Django it's almost automatic, since you have many features that are included. And if we compare on built-in administration panel, we remember that Flask is not included automatically, whereas in Django we already have administration included. So on object relationship mapper, it's not included in Flask by default, but can use SQL alchemy, whereas in Django it is included. And on community and documentation, Flask has large community and it is also active. Django, on other hand, it has very large community, mature documentation as well. And on use cases is that Flask has APIs, can be used to create APIs, small application, and microservices. Guys, it's time to make our hands dirty, and we are going to build a medium-like blog platform with Flask. So this step-by-step guide will walk you through creating a simple blog platform similar to Medium using Flask, HTML, CSS, JavaScript, among others, and I will explain each part in detail for complete beginners. So let us look at project structure. So I had already set up my project structure or blueprint. So let me give you what it looks like. So guys, this is the project structure for our application. So I'll give you some time to go and create this as we want to proceed. So let me just explain what will happen. So first of all, create a folder. In this case, you can create a folder on your desktop, on your downloads, on your D drive, anywhere you would like to prefer. And the folder will be named as blog-platform. And now we open this folder using VS Code. So after opening the folder using VS Code, so okay, I'm referring to VS Code because that's the code editor we are going to use in this project. However, you can use any code editor that you would like to use. In this module, I'm going to use two code editors, Notepad++ and VS Code. But you can use any kind of code editor you would like to use. So after creating this folder called blog hyphen platform, then you need to open it with VS Code. So and then after opening it with the VS Code, you need now to create file. First of all, you start by creating a file called app.py, and then we have also at the same route we need to create static folder. You can just leave it before adding all this file. Then you we need to also add a folder called templates to handle all templates. Leave this file, we'll add them later, and also create a file called requirement.txt to manage Python dependencies. And again, we also need to create a readme markdown. So readme.markdown is a documentation file that explains what you are doing or explains about what your project is about. So it's a good idea to have a readme.markdown file because it also helps other developers when you've deployed your project to understand exactly what your project was all about. So in this folder called blog-platform, you have to create how many files to start with? 4 files. First is app.py static folder. Static is a folder, template is a folder, requirement is a file, and readme .markdown. So let us just create these files together. I'm on my VS Code. Now I'm heading to file. Let me just create the folder manually. I'm going to click on open folder. I click on open folder. Then it directs me to my default folder where I always create them. So let me create a new folder called, we said the folder should be called blog platform. So we call it blog platform, and we select the folder and we open it. Yes, the folder is now open. Can close this window. Now let me have two screens. For our project structure and VS Code. So we say first of all we need to create a file called app.py. So I'm on my VS Code and we have two tabs here, for new file and for a folder. So for a file we'll be clicking on file, and for a folder we'll be clicking on folder. So let us start with the file app.py and hit enter. So you realize it has been created. You can close it now. And the next thing is to create is a template, not template but static folder. So for folder we go here and again click on static, right? Static, that is a folder. Now again in the main directory we need also to create a template folder. So remember, a folder is associated with a slash, a forward slash. So this is a folder. Anything with this slash, remember it's a folder, which means it's a new directory, another directory. So let us create another folder here and call it templates. And now, sorry, I missed it. I can delete this one. Yes. So I had created templates inside static. So you need to be keen. So you can click on app because it is in the same directory or in the same level. So click on app and I create another folder called templates and hit enter. And again we need a requirement.txt, though this one you can also create it using command lines. All these files can be created using command lines, but now I want to create them using just manual way. So the file that is remaining now is requirement.txt and readme.markdown. Let me just create a new file and we call it requirements.txt, though in the future we will not be creating this manually. And the next thing we need to create is now readme.markdown, readme.md, to explain what our project is all about. Now we've created 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Here 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now let us focus on static folder. So inside the static folder we have CSS folder. So let us go to static and we create another folder inside the static called CSS and hit enter. So to manage CSS files. Again, inside CSS, remember here inside CSS we have a file called style.css. Now click here on CSS here and click file. You realize that we need to create it, to name it style.css. Yes, you click enter. Remember, every time you click on files, it opens automatically or it opens by default, but a folder does not open by default here. So it's done. Again, on this static, we need again to create a JS or JavaScript file, JavaScript folder, sorry. So we create JS and click enter. Then inside this JS, I need to create another file called main.js. So let me click on file and click main.js. I click enter. Then it has also opened. So what remains now? Again, now inside the static, we need to create a folder for images. For all our project images will be stored into here. Let me again click on static and click another folder called images and hit enter. So that's the folder that will be handling our images. And what remains now is templates. Let us click on templates. Now we need to add some files here, or some templates. And we start with file called base.html. This base.html can be called layout.html. It's like a mother, it's like a foundation, it's like the blueprint for all other templates. We will have to inherit from that. So base.html, then we create another. The next is index.html, then post.html. Again, we are going to create.html, and now we have login.html, and finally register.html. Now you realize that we have everything. We have everything, yes, that resembles this blog platform project. Everything is here. So we have static with all these files, we have template with all this, we have, you can mimic here base.html. You can see base.html, index.html is here, create.html. This will create, this create.html will be for post creation, because we are creating a blog site, and post.html will be responsible for a single post view, and index.html will be there to display a home page, and base.html will be there for base template or layout, which this layout will be inherited by all these other files, and login.html will be for login page, and register.html will be for registration page. And remember, requirement.txt is a mandatory file that it handles your dependencies independently. So guys, we've created a project structure. So, and one crucial thing that I would like to create here is a virtual environment. Now guys, I talked about virtual environment. Now let us have a look why we actually need a virtual environment for our project. So number one is about dependency isolation. So each virtual environment is an isolated container, and this means that you can install specific versions of packages without affecting other projects. And remember, there will be no conflict between package versioning across different projects. And number two is that virtual environment ensures cleaner project organization, as this keeps your project's dependencies self-contained and making it easy to see which libraries are required by a specific project. That is requirements.txt. And number three is that it is safe for testing. So you can test new libraries or upgrade in a controlled space, and there will be no risk of breaking global Python installation or other projects. And number 4 is that the virtual environment is easier in terms of collaboration and deployment, because your project will be most probably kept somewhere in your GitHub repository, so others can replicate your environment by running pip install -r or flag r requirement.txt, so you can avoid the it works on my machine mentality problem. And number 5 is that virtual environment it is useful for multiple versions or Python versions. So virtual environment can target different versions of Python, e.g. Python 3.9 for one project and 3.11 for another project. And this example how to create a virtual environment, you start with Python -m VNV and the name of virtual environment. Remember, VNV, the second VNV is just a convention, you can use even your name. So, and this is the short form how we have to activate. Now you use source VNV is the name of your virtual environment, and I say this VNV is by convention, so you can just use a different name. You can say my virtual environment, but this one is a system built, so you must use this one. So you need to create and activate your virtual environment. So I'm using a Linux terminal. That's why I'm using this command, source VNV script /activate. But on Mac OS, it can be used by this command, source VNV/bin/activate on Mac OS. And then after activating your virtual environment, now you can use this command, pip install Flask. You can use pip3 or just pip. So it depends with your machine. If you are on Mac or Linux, you can use pip3, but if you are on Windows, you can use pip, just pip install, then you pass on the Flask and hit enter. Now guys, it's time now to create a virtual environment. Now let me open my terminal. You can open the terminal by navigating to VS Code and use these 3 dots, and you can go to terminal and click terminal. You can see the shorthand is Control plus Shift plus tilde. I click here. So, and remember another shorthand of opening terminal is just clicking Control J. You open your terminal. So let me first of all create a virtual environment by using py or just Python -m or flag m VNV, and the name of our virtual environment, again we call it VNV, and hit enter. And realize that the virtual environment is here, VNV is being created is here. So we can open it and realize that we have a number of files, and this is the script that we use to activate our virtual environment. So remember, it's still creating those files. So it's still creating those files, and now it's over, it has created. So this is the activate script. So the activate is here, but now for people using on Mac will see like BAT or sorry /bin. You see something like bin instead of what we are seeing here. So it's over. Now you can now write source. You can type the word source well. Source VNV plus script /activate, and I hit enter. Okay, I mistyped. So the word script should be in caps. It's by source. Not. It is source VNV/script, S being capitalized, and activate. And realize now we have this VNV in bracket. It means that your environment has been activated. Now you can install your Flask framework. Pip install Flask and hit enter. Now guys, it's time to populate our file. So we'll start by creating these files. Let me first of all start with our template. We have base.html that we'll have to start with. So this is the file that you want to start populating. So guys, step 1 is we want to set up the Flask application. So we have like around 10 steps. So first, let us create our main Flask application file. Now guys, it's time to populate our first file app.py, and you have to import the necessary modules or libraries in the following sections. So from Flask, we need to import Flask, render template, render request, redirect, URL for, flash, and session. And from workzoob.security, we need to import generate underscore password underscore hash. We need to check underscore password underscore hash. Also need from workzoob.utils, we need to import secure underscore file. Also need to import OS as well as date time. So from date time, we need to import date time. And we need now to initialize our Flask application instance. And so app is equals to Flask underscore underscore name underscore underscore name. So this means that this underscore underscore name underscore name helps Flask relocate templates in static files, and we can configure our files. So app.secret key is equals to your secret key. So this is a key that should be secret to everyone. So but I will help you create one using our own automated script, so don't worry about that. So an app.config will be upload underscore folder and is equal to static and slash images. So this is the folder to store uploaded images. And app.config we pass on allowed underscore extension will be a stuff to handle image extensions or allowed image types. We can also do create in-memory storage, that is temporary. So which means we need to have a temporary database, but in future we will have a database using SQL Alchemy. So don't worry, just stay along. So we need to create a dictionary of users, and this dictionary will store the user credentials. We also need to create a list of posts. So this to store blog posts. Again, you need a utility function for the following section. So we need to have a function define allowed file. So we need to create a file name function to handle all the allowed files. So we check if the file has the allowed extensions. So we need to return dot in file and file name dot rsplit dot one. And we need to also lowercase it in app.config and person allowed extensions. So let us create routes now to access all the directories. So at app.route and the person / and we also define index, which is that's the home page. This will render the home page with a list of all created posts. So we need now to return render a template and the person index.html and post is equal to posts, and app.route will be with person post and should be and post with the post ID, so which means unique posts, and we need to display now a single post based on its own ID in that summary. So if post ID is less than length of post, we need now to return render template post.html, and post will be equal to post as a subset of post ID. Now flash post not found error. So if the post not found, we need to again to redirect to home page. So app.route, we need to create a view for creating a post, and the method is get and post. So we'll have to understand this later as we'll be working with those templates. We have not created those templates, but we'll have to create them. So this is therefore allowed login users to create a new post. So only logged in users will be able to create some posts, but if you are not a user, will not be able to do such. So if username not in session flash, you need to log in first, then you pass on the error. So, or you need to redirect the user back to login page. And if request.method is equal to post, then and title is equals to request.form title, and content is equals to request.form content as a subset, and author is equal to session username. So your details or the author name will be left along the post, and date is equals to datetime.now.strip in this message. So e.g. April 30, 2025, and image will be none, and for example image is equal to none, and so if image in request.files, then file is equals to, so by default it means that there will be no image, but we will have to create hours or import or upload hours. So if file name is not and allowed files in file name, then file name will be equal to secure file name file.file name. So, and we need now to create the file to save the file that we've just opened up, so or the file that we've uploaded into the set directory. So image will be equal to file name. Now guys, let us we need to add the new post to the post list. So post.append, and we have the following credentials along the post. Title will be title, content will be content, author will be author, we have also date will be date, image will be image, among other. And you can flash with some message, post created successfully, and this means that it is a success message. Now we can redirect URL for index, so which means you are returning back to home page, and return render create HTML, so index.html. This means that we have now a new page that again gives us authority to create a new post again, and now we need to create a route for login with the method get and post. So we define the login, and this function will allow users to log in using their username and password. So if request.method is equals to post, then username will be equal to request.form username. So we'll have to submit the form for username to submit their details. So we'll have also to create this form, so don't worry. And we need to verify the user's credentials. So if the user in users and check _password_has, remember that was the library that we imported users, and username with password comma password. So we need to compare all of them, and they need to match. And session username should be username, and we need to flash logged in successfully and with success message, and we need to return or redirect the user back to home page. Else, if the login was or the credentials were invalid, we need to flash invalid username or password error. So remember, it is secure to say so instead of saying the password was wrong or the email was wrong or username was wrong, because it gives a hint to crackers in future. And you can now create a register route as well. For registration purposes, we again with get and post method. So this will allow users to create a new account if it not exist. So if required method is equal to post, then the username will be request.form, because we have a registration form that we have to create, and person the username, and email will be request.form email, and password will be request.form password. So from the form we need to get the field for password, and we need also to confirm the password, request.form and confirm password field. So we need also to validate the form input. So if password is not equal to confirm password, then we need to flash a message that passwords do not match. So which means the user is registering, but the first password and second password did not match, so we need to have that error. Else, username in user. So for example, the user could be in those already in the already user database. So the user will have a username already taken. So and it will be direct back to either login or register page. And users and the person users is equals to will be a dictionary of email with a match of email, and password with a match of generated password underscore hash, which means a secured password. Even the administrator can't see the password or can't get. So, and session will be username is equal to username. So we have to get the data, the cookies for a specific user. I need to flash account created successfully. So we save the user details in that session, so the person can log in later without having to again type in password, but you can just auto complete. So we can return render template register .html if the login or the sign up was or sign in was unsuccessful. So now we can create out again a login URL, a logout URL if the session is complete and the user wants to leave. So we need to flash the message logged out successfully, and we pass on the success message. So we again need to redirect to a home page, which is index.html. Now we can run the final application as if underscore name is equal underscore is equal to underscore main, then app.run debug is equal to true. And this, remember, it will enable debug mode during development, but during deployment or during when you deploy our application, we'll have to turn debug mode to be false, because the debug mode is equal to true simply means that if we have a crash within our system, then the system will give us the exact error, so we'll have to track and do the necessary debugging. But now after that all necessary tests have been carried out, it means that we are ready to now put it to false. So that's why it's good to turn it to false once all the tests have been confirmed to be working. Hello guys, now before we move on to section 2, this is how your blog post will look like. So we'll have this title blog platform with the login and the register. If this first time getting into this blog site, and a join button. So if you click on the join button, it means that we want to create an account, the same as to register. So the register and join button are just the same. So, and password, for example, and I hit register and realize that I have registered. So account created successfully. So no post yet. You can do what? You can post. You can create a new post by the title. For example, let me say tech world, and content I can say blah 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 blah. For example, just a simple text, and I can choose the image. Let me go to downloads and choose my image. For example, here let me use this image. So I made a mistake here. So let me choose this one and click open. Yes, the image is here, and I click publish. Voila, the image is here. It has been posted, and it was published by Ambrose on 1st May 2025, or May 1st 2025. So I can add another post. For example, vlog again, just some random text and image. For example, let me use this one, and again I publish. So let me just upload another image. Let me say market, and to my market, and let me choose, and let me click. Yes, the image is saved. So you can see the image is here with my market, the text that I used, and by Ambrose. So remember, this image did not appear here because it is not among the image file that, or the file extension type that we're expecting to be uploaded here. So this is what we call card in HTML. So we're going to see how this will look like as we'll be creating those templates. Now you can log out, you can check your profile, you can log out, you can create a new post. So if I log out, I realize that yes, I can just see the post that it was posted, but I'm not now logged in. So remember, this we've not already created the database. In case just in case I stop the server, I will realize that all these images have been erased from the system. Let me close the server and start again. So I've restarted the server. So if I refresh this, or if I reload the page, you realize that no posts here. No posts. Yes, be the first to create one. So it means that the posts are not being stored in the database. They're just from lists and dictionary holders. So that's the posts are in temporary memory. So we'll have to create a database. We've already created a database now, but we want to create now templates to hold everything, so that every time we create a new post, the post will be saved into a database. Now guys, we are moving to step 2, where we want to create the base template. So remember, the base template is just a layout template, and this will be the foundation for all the other pages. And remember, this is the base template, so this is just a HTML comment. And we will inherit from all other templates. So we start by doc type. So this means that we are declaring that this is an HTML5 document, and HTML lang is equal to en. It means that we set the language to English, and head, which means, and we want to create some meta tags for character encoding and responsive design. So meta char set is equal to UTF-8. This sets the character encoding to UTF-8, and meta name viewport content width is equal to device width initial scale is equal to 1.0. This simply means that you want to make the site responsive on both devices, and on when I say both devices, it means that all mobile and desktop devices, which means we want to create a dynamic. We also need to create a dynamic title that will be responsive on all the devices. So title will be curly braces, percentage sign blog title, percentage sign blog, and then blog platform, and end blog. So this is a Jinja 2 syntax code. So remember, the name or the title for our blog site will be blog platform. And now we want to link in some CSS. Remember this creation is not about CSS or HTML or JavaScript, but I'm just giving you a hint on how to use them. But my main focus was on Python programming, so we're just trying to link some styles or static files to make sure that our site is not static, or is not ugly. And we can also create something on the body. So we want to create the header section with some navigation bar, and the header class will be header, and div is just a division, which means the division from one site from another, or section to another. So this is a container for consistent width. And we can also create an anchor, href, URL for index plus logo, it will appear as blog platform. So this is site logo linking to home page, and whenever someone clicks on blog platform, will be automatically direct to home page. Now again, we want to create a navigation menu that changes based on login status. And nav class is equals to nav. So using our Jinja 2 syntax, curly braces, percentage if username in session percentage, this checks if the user is logged in. And we want now to, if the user is logged in, now we need to show the links for logged in users. So href will be URL for create post, and class will be nav link new post. So this will create the new post. If the user clicks on the new post, it will create a new post, the way we just seen on the demo. And href hashtag class nav link profile. So this one will direct the user to his or her profile. And URL for logout and class nav link will direct to logout. It means the user is now logging out. And else, we need to show these links for guests. So if the user is not logged in, then the links for registration, for example, and login will have to appear. Yes, login link, and also registration link. URL for register link. So class nav link register. So if the user is not logged in, then the login page or register page will have to pop up, and we have to end our code and our navigation bar. I just created the main content area. So the main class is equal to main, and we are going to create a division class equal to container. So remember, you can learn more about HTML online, but this course is about Python programming. And so percentage so we want to flash the message, display the system that with message is equal to get flashed messages. So this one will get all the flashed messages. And so if the messages, so this means that if there are messages to be displayed, then we need to create another div class flash message that says so we need to look through for each message that will be there. So we need to look through, and we also create another div class that will flash the message and in message. So we need to display the individual message back to the user. And we need to end our loop, and we close our division and end if now. Now we want to create the content block, that is the child template will insert their content here. So we can create a block content and end block. So we can also create our footer. Though footer is just the end section of a web page or an application. So I'm creating this on the default here to be 2023, but I can modify to 2025, and all rights reserved. Copyright. This is just a copyright notice. You can put your own copyright. Now we can also add some JavaScript file link. to make our application dynamic. So script src, it means just source file. We have this file URL which will link our JavaScript to our application. And now we have to close our stuff. So next step number 3, we need to create the home page now. After creating the base template that will be inherited by all other templates, now we need to create the home page that will inherit everything that has been created now. All that will inherit the layout that has been created by the base.html. Now guys, these are base.html. We've first created app.py, then we've created base.html, which means our layout, and we are now going to create the index.html, our home page. So let us proceed. Now under templates, we have this index.html that we are going to create, and this template will extend the base.html template that we just created. So, and this is the syntax: curly braces, percentage extends base.html, percentage curly bracket. Then this means that we are inheriting all structure from base.html, and it will override. So we want to create our own title that will override the title block from base.html. So block title home. So it will say that if someone clicks on home page, then it will create a title. It will display title as home, which means we set the page title to home. And we need to begin now to create the content block that will be inserted into the base.html. So curly braces, percentage block content percentage, and here is the section where the main banner at the top of the page. So section class is equal to hero. So h1 is the how our text is going to appear. So h1, we have h1 up to h6. So h1 is the largest, h6 is the smallest title. So it will say welcome to blog platform, which will be the main heading, and symbol logging platform for sharing your thoughts. So we need also to show join now button only for logged out users. So if anyone is logged out, then this button will show, and if user not in session, and this one will check if the user is not logged in. So we want to create an anchor tag URL for register, so it will give a user a chance to register a class between join now. So this one is a registration button that will be displayed end if. And now we want to create the post listing section. So we want by section class posts, and h2 is equal to latest post, and this is the section heading. So we also need to check if there are any posts to display. So if posts, and this is that if posts exist, then you need to create a div class post grid. So this is a container for all postcards grid, and it will be dynamic. When you add the post, it will auto add the way we saw as I was adding some posts. So we need also to look through each post in the post list. And remember, these loops are necessary and are good in this section because we don't have to repeat yourself. This loop will have to apply to any other post. If you want to add like 100 posts, you don't have to repeat writing these lines of code, but now it will be dynamic, so the user can just add manually. So we also need to create a display post image if one exists. So if post.image percentage, this one means that we need to check if the post has image attached. And we will give to the image source. The source of the image will be URL for static, so static directory, file name, and the images. And under the images directory plus post.image. So it means you are taking image from static file directory, and you have also image directory under static file image. And alt post.title. So alt is just a way to describe our image, and class post image, which means post image with alt or alternative text. So it's good to use alt. It's optional, but it's good to use alt because if your image does not exist, it will give the name of that image. For example, for deaf people, so we can define a div class post content, so which means this is the post text content, and we not want to create the post title, which will link to full post view. So we have an anchor tag with this URL. So view post and post ID will be post dot index post. So post dot title, which means you're going to display the title of the post. And we have to close our anchor tag. I want to create the post excerpt, first 150 characters. Just 150 characters will be shown by default. Else others will be truncated or be hidden. So post.content 150 colon 150. So it will be truncated to 150. Now we want to create the post metadata with auth and date. So div class post is equal to post hyphen meta, and we want to have a span class is equal to post author by post.author, so the person will be logged in and posting, and we have to span. This means the author name will display. Again, post.date, and this the date that the post was posted will display. So else, so if no post exists, we have to display no posts yet, be the first to create one. We have to end our block, or end of content block. So let me show you our post again. So this is what it says: no posts yet, be the first one to create one. So if there will be not there will be no other posts. So, and remember, this is the title that overrides the main title of basic HTML. Welcome to blog post. This this one, the title that is displaying from our blog post. Now guys, after creating the home page or index.html page, it is time now to create to move to step 4 and create our post page. So this is step 4, and we want to create the post creation page, and it will be in the directory called templates and create.html. So this one will extend base.html, so we still need that layout. So block title will be create new post, and we have end block. So a section plus create post, and we can also have our heading for the page. So the heading we'll use heading 2, create new post, and form to we want to create a form to submit a new blog post, and we want to use the method post, which will send the form data to the server. Again, we have the action that URL for create post, which sends the data to create post route, and another encrypt or end type is equal to multi-party / form data. This allows file uploads like images and similar. And form method is equal to post. This one an action URL for create post. So our encryption is multi-form. So we have already explained what this is doing, and now let us proceed. Remember, less than and exclamation mark, hyphen hyphen, hyphen hyphen, greater than sign. This means that is a comment in HTML. So we're creating a div class for group with some input field. So label for is equal to title, and it will be called title. And we want to import type to be a text, IDE or ID to be title, and name to be title, and it should be required, which means you can't bypass. You should fill before moving to the next section. And now we need to have our text area for the main content, where you saw me typing the content of our post, or the content of our blog post. So div class form group, and we need to have the label for will be content, and it will be content, and the text area ID will be content, the name will be content, rows will be 10, and it will be required, which means rows means the size of the box, And we need to add also an optional image upload field. So div class form group label for image featured image, and to be optional. Input type will be file, ID will be image, and name will be image, and you can accept from the image directory. Now let us create the button to enable submission of the form. Now we can end our block. Now our create post is ready. We've already populated base.html, create.html, index.html. So far we're remaining login .html, post.html, and register.html. Now it's time to move to step 5 after completing step 4. So we want to create a single post view. So, and inside the templates directory, we have post.html of which we want to populate, and still it will extend from base.html. So this sets the page title to the title of the blog post. So the blog content will be as follows: post.title, and I have to end if. So, and blog content as well, and we want to create an article class with full posts. And so if the post has an image, we need to display it here. So if post.image, so the image is served from the static/images directory folder. So image source is equal to URL for static file name image directory plus post.image, and alt or alternative name is equal to post.title, class will be post header / image, and we can end if. Remember, if we start with the if, you need to end with end if, and if we start with for, you need to end your block with end for, and so on and so forth. So we want also to create some post metadata such as author and date. And so div class is equal to post date, post meta, and we need to have a span class. Span simply means spanning. We can span towards the right or towards the left. It will be post.author, and span class post date will be post.date. And again we close our span attribute, and we close our div attribute as well, or div class. And now the main content of the post follows. We need to have our div class post content, and here we need the save filter that tells Ginger2 syntax to render HTML inside the post content, and post.content save, that is the syntax, and we need to close our div. And now we need to show the edit/delete option only if the logged in user is the post author. So if post.author is equal to session.get username, then we need to create a div class that post-actions. And so these are placeholders or placeholder links for editing and deleting the post. So we need to create our anchor tag href is equal to with pound. So pound means an empty URL. So empty URL it means that we can create hours between danger edit and delete. So we can still create it in future, and we can end it our blog. Now let us have our comment section. So section class comments set 3, which means title header number 3 comments. So form to add a new comment, and we want to add some function to our post, and div class equal to comment form, and text area we have this placeholder, add a comment class and comment input as attribute in that text area, and button class between post comment and close our div. Now we need to have a list of all the comments. So div class comment list, and we need to have an example of the comment list static, and that is why we're focusing on static for now. Let us create a div class of comments. So our paragraph will be class comment text, and this is a great post, for example. And we will now add the div class of comment meta data, and we will span that class comment author, for example John Doe, and can also span the class comment date, for example 2 days ago, and close our div, close our section as well, and the end our blog. Now guys, since our post.html is over, now it's time to create to populate our login page, and we'll have to finish with register page. So step 6, we creating an authentication pages, so login pages, and we have under templates directory will have this login.html, and it still will extend from base.html. So this block sets the title of the page to login, and block title will be login end block. So and we want to create a section login form, and we have section class is equal to auth form, and header 2 will be login to your account. And now we want to create again a login form that sends data using post method to the login route. So we create a form method is equal to post, and action will be URL for, and the person the login to URL. And we want the username input field now in the following section. So div class is equal to form group, which means it will have a certain group of labels. So label 4 equal to username, and it will be username, and we're also going to have an input label type will be text, ID will be username, and name will be username, and it will be required, it will be mandatory to fill that before proceeding. And now we want password input field. So since we just entered the username, we also need the password for someone who is logging in. And div class form group. So from the form, we need to take the field for password and be named password. Again, field for confirm password, and input will be type will be password, and ID will be password, and name will be password, and all will be required. And to close our div. So we need also to create now a submission button after someone inserts the username and password. Then we need to submit in order to log in. So the button type will be submit class between and login. We close that one, and we need to close the form. So we need to provide the link to registration if the person is not eligible to log in, and if he doesn't have the account, now we still need to register. So a paragraph plus auth switch, don't have an account, then we provide a href for registration, and it say register here, and to close our section we end our blog. Now guys, our login page is ready. Now we need to populate the register page, and we'll be done with template section. So the next section will be dealing with static files. Guys, it's time to create our registration template. I still it will be under templates directory, so and it will extend base.html. So this will inherit the layout from base.html, and the blog title will be register, and we have to change our blog title. So this means that we are setting the page title to register, and we are overriding the one from parent class. And let us create a blog content, and section will be class auth form. So this is the container for registration form. So header 2 will be create an account. So this one gives the user an opportunity to create an account and using header number 2. So form method is equal to post, and action will be URL for register. So it means that's the URL that will direct it to the user who wants to be registered. So this is a form sends the post request to register route. So remember, I also need to create a div class form and group for URL. This is just a group for URL username field, and label before username, and will be username as a name field, and this username will just the name or the label for the user input or username input, and the input type will be text, and ID will be username, name will be username, and it will be required. So username input field, you can close our div function or div attribute, and you can create another div. Class is equal to form group, and it means this is a group for email field. So label form will be email, and email will be the name of the label. So label for email input, and input type will be email, ID will be email. Remember, input type is very important because it helps in validation. HTML has automatic email validation. If you input invalid email, it will automatically throw an error. I'm going to create a div class form group. So a group for password validation. And so label for will be password, and password as the name of the label, and you can proceed. So input type will be password with ID as password, and name will be password required. So it means that you need to make sure the password is correct before the form will allow to proceed. And you can just create another div class with the form group, which means it will be a group for to confirm the password, if the password is okay during registration. So label for is equal to confirm password, and confirm password as the label name. So the label will be confirm for password confirmation. Now you can input time will be password again, ID will be confirm password, and name will be confirm password, which will be required as well. Now you can close our div. We can also create the button to submit our password or our details. So it will be submission button for the form. You can close our button as well, or you close already. So you close our form, and you can create now the paragraph for which already have an account. So you direct the user to log in instead of registering if the user already exists in the system. So it will be, he or she will be directed to log in to a login page URL. And now we can enter our blog. Now guys, this is our registration template. So far so good. We've populated all the templates. Now it's time to cross check. One thing that's remaining is static files. So far, let us try to run our project and check what happens without the static file. So py or you can say python app.py and hit enter. So it will give some time to run, and you see the warning. This is a development server. Do not use it in production deployment. So use a production WSGI. So WSGI is just a short form for web server gateway interface instead. So it means that we'll have to put our debug to be false. So I can copy this URL and use my browser to copy and hit enter. So you see how now our page looks. It looks too ugly. So this is the reason why we need to have our CSS and JavaScript files to make sure our page now looks fancy as it was looking prior. So this is how it looks. So it's time now to update our program or our application with static files. So let us make our hands dirty again. Now guys, moving on to step 7, where I want to populate the CSS styling. So, and let us have our comment here. CSS variable for is theme management and consistency. So let us have a root and under / primary / color, and this color code. This means that the main brand color will be green, as you saw in your previous project. It will be green with the word blog font, and secondary color will be that one, and light color will be this. So remember, this teaching is not about CSS, JavaScript, or HTML. It's about Python. This is just an additional stuff that I'm adding. So we have also that we want to create the background to be dark in color, and a danger color will be this one. So which means like any error or alert will be on that danger color or red background. And border color can also create it to be this color. So you can look from online what are these color codes means, and you can also create our text light to be text color can be white, so or lighter text color. And attribute number 2 can reset the default browser styles. So we start. Remember, CSS mostly uses like it uses like a dictionary of attributes, like key value pairs, when defining the CSS stuff. So we're creating our margin to be 0, padding to be 0, so which means we're removing any default padding that was set by browsers. And box sizing, border, box. So box sizing, like individual in the individual image that we upload, it takes a certain box size, so which will be by default of the same size. And we need to create the body style. So font family would be open sans and sans serif. We need to use open serif as sans as the font, and line between each of your content will be 1.6. So this is the, we need to improve the readability. That's why we are going to create some space between the lines. And we also need to create the color in the body as var -- text color to be set the text color as white, and background color as this is the background color of the body. Remember, you have a different kind of background color, like for header, for body, and any other. So, and this one, in this case, the background will be white. You can also create define our container for consistent content with. So remember, containers in this case refers to the section we've been creating in HTML. Sections and div, those are the containers. So width of 100, which is full width, and maximum width 1200 pixels. That is maximum content width. And margin can be set to 0 and should be auto for all. So it will be center container, and padding 0 200 pixels, and this will add padding on side. And you can also have another attribute for header styles. So dot header background color, we take this color code pound =F, which means the white background, and box shadow with 0 and 2 pixel, 4 pixel, RGBA 0000.1, which means subtle shadow. It will have a subtle shadow, and position will be sticky, which means stick header, and top will be 0, with this, which means we are sticking it to the top, and Z-index 100. So simply means that we're ensuring that header stays on the top, which means we're fixing the header on the top. We don't want to move with along the other content. And padding 1 rem 0, which means that vertical padding will be enforced. And now logo styling. Because the font size for our logo will be 1.5 rem. So this means that we're giving it the larger font size for easier visibility and differentiability as well. So font weight will be 700. So that is will be bold weight, and the color var - primary color, which in primary color simply means green color, and it is the brand color as green. And text hyphen decoration will be none, so which means that we are removing underline. And navigation styling follows. So .nav, we want to display it flex, so this means that we want it to be horizontal layout, and gap is equal to 1.5. So this means that the spacing between the nav items will be 1.5, and nav link text decoration will be none, which means we don't want any highlight, so we want to remove any underline. And color var - secondary color, this means that we're making somehow dark gray color. And font weight will be 600, which is slightly semi-bold. And nav link hover, which means and the color will be var primary color, which means on hover it will be green in color, so change to brand color on hover. And buttons, we want to style the button, so .btn, which means button, we need to display index inline block. So this one allows padding, and padding will be of 0.5 with 1 rem. So the button padding will be set as we just defined. And background color as well, var primary color, background color will be green, as well as color of the text will be white, so white text. And border will be none, so we don't want any kind of border style. And border radius will be 4 pixels, so it will be rounded corners in short. And text decoration will be none, so we are not going to do we are going to remove any underline. And font weight will be 600, which will be same bold. And cursor pointer that is we need to the pointer cursor as we hover. And transition background color will be 0.5 seconds. So smooth color transition. And button on hover will be background color, which is 157813 color code, which will be dark green on hover. And danger, once you add a danger button variant, so dot button danger, so background color var dash dash danger color, which will be red, and button hyphen danger color will have this color code again on hover, so darker red on hover. And heroes, I want to check on hero section dot hero, we have a text align center, so this one will just center the content of our writings. And padding will be 4 rem and 0, which means that we need a vertical padding. And background color var hyphen hyphen light color, which means we need light gray background. And border radius is 8 pixels, which means it will be rounded corners. And also you can define our margin 2 rem, which will be the vertical margin will be at 2. And dot hero, we're defining the h1 at 2.5 font size. So this one means that we want a large heading. And margin bottom will be 1 rem, which is space between below the heading. And dot hero paragraph wise will be font size will be 1.2 rem, which will be large as well paragraph text. And margin bottom 2 rem, which will be the space below the paragraph. And color var hyphen hyphen text light, which means it will be light gray text. Now you can also define the post grid layout. Dot post grid display will be grid and CSS. This is just simply CSS grid layout. And grid template columns, which means we need to repeat autofill mean 300 pixel 1 fr, which means it will be responsive columns. And gap 2 rem, so this means that the space between cards. And the margin will be 2 rem, which means it will be vertical. Margin. And postcard styles also follows. Dot postcard border 1 pixel solid var hyphen hyphen border hyphen color. I'm putting it as like light border, and border radius will be 8 pixel, which will be rounded corners. So remember, border radius something that is round, that's what we call rounded corners. Overflow hidden, which means we want to hide overflow content. And transition will be transform 0.3 seconds. Box shadow 0.3 seconds. This means that we need smooth hover effects. And postcard on hover will be, we need transform translate y, which means you are transposing, so you are lift card on hover. And the box shadow 0, 5 pixel, 15 pixel, RGBA 0000.1, the shadow on hover, and dot post image will be with 100%, and this simply implies full width and height will be 200 pixels. So on the other hand, it simply means fixed height. And object fit cover also, which means the cropped image to fit, and dot post content padding 1.5, and this simply means the inner spacing. And you can also define post content with h3 header and margin bottom 0.5 rem, and this is simply the spacing below the title. Now you can also define dot post content header of 3a and color, which means the angers or the links color will be var secondary color, which means dark text, and text decoration is also none, which means we don't want any underlines. We remove any underline. And dot post content h2 or sorry h3 ha over color var slash primary color. Remember, primary color means just green on hover, not every time on hover, but primary color simply means green. And post exact will be color text light, which means light gray text, and margin bottom 1 rem, which is space below exact. And dot post maker, we want to display flex, so this simply means horizontal layout, and justify content to be space between, so there is space between items. And font size will be 0.9 rem, so which is the smaller text. And color var text hyphen text light, which means that this is a light gray text. And finally we can look at full post view style. So dot full post will have attribute of margin 2 rem 0, and this will hold the vertical margin. And dot post header image width will be 100%, which means full width. And maximum height will be 500 pixels, which means that is the fixed height. Yes. And object fit cover, this one means that we need to crop the image to fit or to cover. And border radius, which means 8 pixels, means that we need to have rounded borders or rounded corners, any other. Margin bottom 2 rem, this simply means the space below image. And full post with font size of 2.5 rem, this is large font size. And margin bottom 1 rem, which means the space below the heading. And dot full post maker, margin bottom 2 rem, still the larger will be the space below the meta or the metadata, and post hyphen content font size 1.1 rem. This is the slightly larger text, and then line height 1.8, so which is it's simply the space between the lines for readability purposes. And dot post actions margin to 2 rem, so which means that it's the space above the buttons, and the display is flex, which implies horizontal layout, and gap 1 rem, which implies the space between buttons. And you have form styles now, dot auth form, dot post form. We have maximum width of 600 pixels. This is just limit form width, and margin 2 rem auto, which means it will adjust itself, which will be centered form, and padding will be 2 rem, and this implies inner spacing. And now we have background color, and this it will be white background. Now we have also border radius as 8 pixels, which will have rounded corners or borders, and box shadow 0, 2 pixel, 4 pixel, RGBA 000, 0.1, and subtitle will be shadow or subtitle or horizontal shadow, and margin bottom with 1.5 frame, which is the space below heading. Again, we also have text align center, which we want to align our text to be centered, and dot form group margin bottom 1.5 frame, and the spacing between fields. So form group label, this one will display block, and this simply means that they make labels block elements, and margin bottom should be 0.5 frame, so this simply means that it's the space below label, and font weight 600, which means a semi bold labels. Dot form group input, dot form group text area, dot form group select. All will have the attribute of width of 100% as maximum width or full width, and padding will still be 0.75 frame. This will imply the input field will have the padding of this specification, and border will be 1 pixel solid, and var will be hyphen border hyphen color. This will be light border, and border radius will be 4 pixels, which means they will have rounded corners. Again, we will have font family of inherit, which will inherit font from the original template, and font size will be 1 rem. This implies normal font size, and dot form group text area will have a minimum height of 200 pixels. This is the minimum height, and resize vertical. So which means we can resize vertical wise. So it will allow vertical resizing or adjustment. And we want to look at auth form switch link. So .auth hyphen switch, we have attribute as text hyphen align, which will be center, and means that we want to center the text, and margin top will be 1.5 rem, and simply means that we want the space above the margin. And color var text light, which means it will be light gray color, and auth switch color will be var hyphen primary color to be green or brand color, and text decoration will be none, no underline at all. And you can also define the flash messages. So flash messages margin 1 rem 0. This one simply means the vertical margin, and flash message will have the padding of 1 rem, and the inner, that's the inner spacing, and margin bottom will be 1 rem, and the space between, simply the space between the messages, and border radius will be 4 pixels, which means rounded corners, and background color will be of this color code, which means will be light red background, and color will be dark red text, and border 1 pixel solid, which will be red border, and footer styling, I think we're heading towards the end. The text align will be centered, which means we are centering our content, and padding will be 2 rem 0. So this one will be vertical padding, and margin to 4 rem, and this will be the space above footer, and the border top will be 1 pixel solid var hyphen border hyphen color. This is the top border, and the color var hyphen text light. This will be light gray color, the text. And now the responsive design follows. At media, max width 768 pixels slash stack header elements on mobile. So this is the responsive on both devices. So .header, .container have flex, hyperdirection, a column. So this is simply a vertical layout. And align items, flex start, which means we want to align to the left, and you can also add the space between the stacked nav items. .nav, and margin top will be 1 rem, which simply means the space above nav. And we can also reduce the hero heading size. Hero h1, we can have a font size of 2 rem from the previous 2.5, so smaller heading, and end. So let me grab a glass of water before we proceed. Now guys, let me run our program again and check if there's now any changes after we've just added a CSS file. Let me reload the page. Now check what happens. Now check the transformation. Wow, we are yet now to add can you see on hover, the way you said on hover, we need to have a green color. On hover, you need to have green color. That's on the header template. Wow, can you see the transformation, what the CSS can do? Now it's time to add the JavaScript. Again guys, it's time to make our hands dirty, and step H in this adding JavaScript for interactivity. So this is how you use a comment JavaScript. So static JS main.js, and we need to create main.js file. So document.add event listener, and you have this code will run the code when the page is fully loaded. So const comment form is equals to document.querySelector.comment form. So this one will get the comment form from the page. And if the comment form, so if the comment form exists, the comment form dot add event listener, and it means that we need to submit, and else we need to have a function that will return the error. So we need to listen for form submission. And e dot prevent default, so we want to prevent the page from reloading. And const comment input will be this dot query selector, and the person as dot comment input, and this will get the comment input field. And const comment text is equals to comment input dot value dot string. So we want to get the text and remove any trailing white spaces. And if comment text, which is a dictionary, so if the input is not empty, we need to add comment. So comment text, so we need to add the comment to the page. So comment input dot val will be an empty string, so which means we need to clear the input field first before adding any content. And we need to close our stuff. And you can also create another constant image input is equal to document.get element by id image. We need to get the file input for images. And if image input, so if the image or if the file input exists, then image input dot add event listener, and the person the change function. This means that when a file is selected, we have to do the following. Const file will be equal to this dot files 0, which means we get the first selected file. And if file, or we can say if a file is selected, then console.log selected file and the file name, so which means we log the file name, and in this case you could show a preview of your files. So, and you can also create a function, add comment, and pass the text argument. So this is the function to add a new comment to the page. So console.log adding comment and text as the input. So we log the comment being added, and console or const comment list will be document.query selector dot comment list, and this will get the container where the comments are shown. And if comment list, which means that if the comment container exists, then const comment div is equals to document.create element div, create a new div for the comment, and comment div dot class name will be comment, and we need to assign the comment class for styling, and comment div dot inner HTML, so which means we are setting the inner HTML for comment. So you can do more research about JavaScript, HTML, and CSS. Remember, this is not what we are intended to learn, but we are intended to focus on Python. But now you can't do Python without this one. So I'm just giving a hint of what you can learn in the future to make your learning deeper. And you can create a span of class comment hyphen author. You are then with span, which means we show the author. We need to show the author name, and again we create a span class of comments date just now, so which means we need to show the comment date, and we close our div, and the comment list dot prepend, and we pass on the comment div, so which means we add the new comment to the top of the list. And this is our main.js file that we have populated so far. Now still a server is running. Let me refresh or reload our page. You see that nothing happens, but now it will help us the time we want to post our data. Okay, let me create another account. Let me create here, because I can change the stuff. Now let me this time create again Ambrose, and let me create and let me register. Account successfully registered. So now it says is welcome, and I can now create a new post. Let me create a placeholder text of lorem ipsum. First let me generate and copy. I hope so I've copied. So create post. Let me create here. Yes. Now I can, let me just simply use the title as market, and the image, let me use the image as I love cars, but let me just use this image, and I publish. Yes, the image has been published. It was published by Ambrose on May 01, 2025. So let me add another post. Let me say tech take world, and again I use the same text placeholder. I choose a new image and I publish my post. Again, post created successfully. Yes, here it is. And realize that they are responsive. When I hover my cursor, they are responding. Again, let me add a final post like my data science journey, for example, and I post this and I create another image. Let me use this one of these fancy cars and I upload. So yes, this is what's happening. Now I have my three posts so that you can read from. Now the worst things that this dataset are being saved as dictionaries and lists. So if I log out and I close my server and restart my server, it means that this dataset will be lost. So the next step will be to make sure that our dataset does not get lost whenever we post or whenever we log out, whenever we stop the server. So that will be our next stage. So this one, remember, it is also mobile responsive. If I use it, if I snip it to a mobile size, you can check that it is responsive based on the mobile devices. Guys, remember one thing that I told you that how to create a secret key here. So let me demonstrate how we can create the secret key from my side. So let me delete this one, and I can see the server is restarting. So I need to create a file called, for example, I want to just create my secret. You can name the way you want, my secret.py, and I have to import. You have to import secret, and importing secret you need to, sorry, it is secret, not secret. It's secret, not secret. And now you need to print secret.token hex.token underscore hex 16. So if you print this stuff, you'll have to get your unique secret key. So let me stop the server so I can print the secret, my secret. So py my secret.py and run, and you realize that the secret key has been generated here. So I can use this one and apply to my application here. So remember, if I still run this, I'll get a new secret key. So my secret, for example, py my secret.py, if I run, yes, I still get a different secret key. So this helps in this helps in session management, which means that it encrypts the session. So it should be difficult for a hacker to hijack your session because you're using different session keys, and even the database managers won't be able to see to determine what secret key you are using in that active session. So guys, I hope that is okay. Now the next step is to configure our database from these lists and dictionaries to a SQL Alchemy. So stay put as we progress. So guys, it's time to make our hands dirty again by configuring our app.py with now configured database, that is SQL Alchemy, and we're importing our necessary modules as we just done in the previous, we just list and dictionary functions. But now this time we're doing it with SQL Alchemy fully configured database. So from workzube.utils we import secure file name, and from Flask SQL Alchemy we import SQL Alchemy. It will be the our database manager, and from date time we need to import date time. Simply this means that the imported database models, we are importing database model from external file and if separable. So, and from models we need to import db post user. We need to import db post and user, and we need to initialize the Flask app. So so this means that we need also to create external file called post and user model. So we have to create this is the secret key that I've just run shortly, and I'm using it. So at this moment you know how to create your app's secret key for session management. So app.config, and we are using it as upload folder, which will be equal to as static underscore images, or static slash images, and this will be the folder to store the uploaded images. And app.config allowed extensions is equal to png, jpeg, gpg, jpeg, gif, and among others, which will be allowed file extension. And app.config SQL Alchemy database UR. So this is a SQLite /blog.db. It will be a SQLite database UR, and app.config, and the passing the SQLite or SQL Alchemy underscore track underscore modifications, which is equals to false. So we need to disable modification tracking, and we need to also to initialize the SQL Alchemy with the Flask application. So our DB or database is equal to SQL Alchemy, and we will pass on an application, and we want to create now the database models. So first of all, you start by creating the user model for authentication. So class user and db.model will be, we want to create an ID. db.column will be db.integer. Primary key is equal to true, which means that our ID will be the primary key, and it will be unique user identifier. And username will be db.column db.string 80, and unique will be equal to true, nullable will be false. So email would be db.column, and the number of size will be 120, unique will be true, and nullable will be false. And again, password will be db.column db.string, which means the number of string will be 200 characters, nullable will be false, which means you need to be hashed. You need to be a hashed password. And now we need to have a post model for blog post. So class post will be db.model, id will be db.column db.integer, db.integer primary key will also be true, which means we need to have unique post id. Title will be db.column db.string, which means we also have 150 characters, nullable will be false, which means that's a post title. And content will be db.column db text, nullable is equal to false, which will be filled with some content. And author will be db.column db.string with 80 number of characters, nullable will be false, which means it's a must to insert the author's name, and which must be logged in. Date will be db.column db.string 50, nullable is equal to false. It's the date of creation. And the image will be db.column db.string 120. Nullable is equal to true, which means it is optional. Image file name will be optional. And we move on to the next section, which will entail our helper function. So let us create our helper function, and this helper function will check if the uploaded file has an allowed extension. So let us define allowed file extension and pass on the file name as our argument. So we need to return dot in file name and file name dot r split with a dot, comma 1, and at position 2 dot lower. So in app.config allowed extension, and this means that the routes, and let us look at the home page. So we want to display all posts, and we need to define index function for home post, and post will be post.query.orderBy, post.id.descending.all, which describe.all, which gets all the posts in descending order. And we need to return render template index.html, and post will be post, which means we are fetching post from the database, which means we need to pass the post to the template from the database. And we want to also create a view which is a specific post by ID. So at app.route, and we pass on the slash post and int colon post underscore ID, and we also define the view post and pass on the post ID as our argument or parameter. So post is equals to post.query.get or 404 post ID, so which return 404 if the post does not exist, and we return the render template post.html, and post is equal to post if it exists. And we can also create a new blog post route. So at app.route create, a method will be either get or post. So we define the create post function. So if username not in session, so if username is not logged in, so you need to flash, or you need to tell the user you need to log in first. So that will be the error to return to the user. Else we need to redirect to a login URL. And if request.method is equal to post, and the title should be request.form title, and the content will be request.form content, as well as author will be is equals to session and pass on the username during that active session, and date will be datetime dot now dot start time this will be the format of the current date, which means the year will be the last one, and image will be none by default, which means there will be no image into the session. And if image in request.files, then file is equals to request.files, and you pass on the image. So this means that if file and allowed file, then file.file name, which means we need to check if the file is valid using our file extension check. So file name is equal to secure underscore file name file.file name. So we sanitize file name, and file.save os.path.join app.config uploader folder, file name. So we save the file, and image is equal to file name. So we need also to create a new post and save to the database. So the new post will be post, title is equal to title, content will be content, author will be author, for example, and date will be date, and image will be image. And db.session.add new post. So db.session.commit, so which means that we are saving, and we need to flash post created successfully, and the person success message. And else we return and we redirect the URL from index.html. So whenever the person has posted, then we again return them to a home page. So return, redirect, template, create .html. We need to show the form to create a new post again. Now let us create a login page. So at app.route login method get post. So we need to define a login function that if request.method is equal to post, then the username is equals to request.form username, and we need to the password will be equal to request.form password, and user is equals to user.query.filter underscore by, username is equal to username.first, and if user and check password hash user.password password, then this means that the session will accept the current user, the user in the current session must be the username for us to save the username in the session. So we need to flash logged in successfully and person success message, and we can also redirect the user back to a home page, that is index.html. So else we need to say invalid username or password error, and again we return render template login.html to show the login form so that the person can log in again. Now we are moving on to a registration page. At app.route register method get post, and we need to define the register URL or register function. So if request.method is equal to post, then username is equal to request.form and username. Then email will be equals to request.form and you pass on the email again, and password again will be request.form and you pass on the password as the argument. So we're extracting password field from the form, the same email and the same username. Then confirm password again from the form, request.form confirm password. So and if password is not equal to confirm password, then you need to pass some message to the user that passwords do not match error. Leave username.query.filter by we have username equal to username.first, which means we want to check if the username already exists. We need to say that username already exists or already taken error, or else we need to say that we simply need to create the new user with the hashed password and save to our database. So our hashed password will be equal to generate underscore password underscore hash password, and the new user will be equal to user. We pass on the username is equal to username, email is equal to email, and password will be equal to hashed password. And db.sessions.add new user. So we are now adding the user into the sessions, and db.session.commit. Now we save the result, and session username is equal to username. So we log the user in, and we flash some message that account created successfully and success message. And again we redirect the user to an index page or a home page, and return render template register.html. So we need to show the registration form. Now remember, registration form is only shown when the registration first fails. And app.route, now we want to create the logout route. Someone is logged in, and now someone also needs to log out. So session.fork username, and we remove the user from the session. So we say flash logged out successfully with success method, and return redirect again to URL for index. Now again, after logging out, you can now what next? Now we run the app. If underscore name underscore is equal to underscore main, then this will ensure that the upload folder exists. So if not os.path exists, app.config uploader os.make dir, we are going to make our own directory app.config uploader. So we need to create a database tables if they don't exist, and with app.app_context db.create all. So we create the database now, and now we need to start the Flask development server app.run debug is equal to true. Hello guys, now it's time to create our models. Remember, from my app.py we are having some problem here that import models not exist, and we're being told on line number 7. So if I move to line number 7, I realize that we don't have the model for db post and user, so we need to create them here. So I need to add here some file called models.py. Now from this model, now we want to create the db post and user. Just a short while we're creating it, and we proceed. Now we realize that the model exists, and now the error has gone. Now let us create this db post and user. Now guys, this from the model we're creating models.py, and from Flask SQL Alchemy, we need to import SQL Alchemy. So db is equal to SQL Alchemy as a function, and class we want to create the post table. db.model id will be db.column, db.integer, and primary will be equal to true. So title will be db.column, db.string 150, nullable will be false. Content will be equal to db.column and db.text, and nullable will be false, which means the content will be a text field or text area. Author will be db.column, and db.string will be 80, which means 80 characters, and nullable will be false, which means you must provide the details. And date will be db.column, db.string, and nullable will be false as well. And image db.column, db.string with 180 characters, and nullable will be true, which means it's optional. And we want to create now a user table, which is the id is equal to db.column, db.integer, and primary key will be true. And username is equal to db.column, db.string 80, unique will be true, and nullable will be false. and email field will also be called db.column db.string 120 as characters is unique will be true and nullable will be false as well. And now we also need to define password field for user. db.column is equals to will be db.string 200 characters and nullable will be false. Yes, our models.py is ready. Now our application is full or is ready. Now let me run again py.py and run. Realize that I'm getting an error, no module. So it's module not found error. So no module named Flask underscore SQL Alchemy. So it means we need to install this module. So people install Flask SQL Alchemy. So it will take some time depending on your internet strength, and you have to install. Yes, it's complete now. The file we have already now installed. It's called Alchemy. Now again, let me rerun the application. Now again, I can check the status of application and reload. And again, I realize there is no data is gone because I had restarted the application. So let me log in, and if I start logging with that data, I realize that the data is not saved because we created a new database. So again, let me use the name Ambrose, and I can create a new password, or let me register. Okay, with that email, and I say again and register. So account created successfully. So I can now create a new post, and let me create a post. Let me say tech world, and let me simply use our placeholder here. I don't know if I copied, but let me try. Yes, I copied. And we can upload an image, and let me use this car, and we can click on publish. So realize that it has been published. So I want us to do something. So let me log out, and also let me log out. So you realize that this image is still here, and then let me close my server. So I want to close my server and check if this data now is still existing in the database. So py app.py and run the server. So let me go back to my login page and refresh. So again, now you see this post is still here, not like the previous one where we didn't have it. So I can now log in again with the same data. Now voila, you realize that now I can still log in. I'm still recognized by the system now, which means that the data set being saved. Now let me create another post. Let me say my data science journey again with this text and image. So let me use this one or this one, and I can post. Yes, it's here, and in fact the latest image or latest post comes by default here. So let me again add another post. For example, let me say take today, and I can also use that placeholder text. Again, let me use this one, and I can publish. you realize that it is published here. Yes. Now guys, our application is over at this stage, but there is much you can do, and there's much you can do to improve this, but I'll leave it here for you to improve. I will also provide the link to my GitHub repo. So I wish you all the best.